How did they create a life of marriage that works? Well, we are going to find out. Addiction, codependency, and successful marriage. Sarah Tricker.
Toastmaster. So I'm going to take you back to that summer of 1992. I was a mere 13 and a half years old, had got into a little bit of trouble with my friends at school. So I thought it would be a really good idea to go to Brighton for the summer and spend it with my auntie. Little did I know at that point that I would actually meet my soulmate. Now, he was 4 years older than me, and my dad was a police officer, remember? So that brought some interesting things. Hey, but life happens. As our lovely Toastmaster had said, we have been together 28 years this year and we'll be celebrating our 23rd anniversary. That's a long time, and life happens. So today I'm going to take you on a journey of addictions, codependency, and a successful marriage. So what I'm going to do is start with addictions. So in Canada, if you look at the substance abuse of Canada, alcohol is the #1 drug that is used by most people, and 15% of those people actually report using more than the recommended daily amount. So what I'm going to do today is look at nature versus nurture. So is it how we're brought up and the culture, or is it to do with our genes? So let's start with nurture. So, the American Addiction Center have done many studies with families that were parted. So you've got parents who were addicts, whose children were adopted out to other families. So if your parents have drinking as an addiction, actually 50 to 60% of children will also have that addiction. So these are kids that have been taken out of that family home and been brought up in homes even that don't have alcohol. So knowing that 50 to 60% of children who have parents who have addiction will move into that as well. But then we look at nurture. So this is really interesting as well when you even consider that culturally, drinking is still very popular. So as before, I take you on a little journey, summers, camping, cracking a cold beer by the fire. And as we go into hockey, we all know, even if you're in your basement with your big screen TV, or if you're lucky enough to get to the hockey rings this year, that is also nice cold beer, goes along with the sport. And then also taking you back to England, quaint little pub on every corner. And as I was saying before, my dad was a police officer. There was even a pub in the police station where the coppers would have a beer after they'd finished their shift. So no, that nobody chooses to have addiction. That over time, if your family has addiction in it, culturally it's acceptable to drink. That, you know, over time, it just gets out of hand. So today, my husband is celebrating 6 years of sobriety. But you've got to remember, when I was 13 and I met him, I didn't even know I was a healer at that point. So basically, codependency. And you know, maybe it's been renamed over time, but the enabler. So that was really the role that I went into. So actually, 90% of the population experience some kind of codependency. So let's look at nature versus nurture. So when you think about codependence, there are two main types. So the first type is the overachiever. That might have been me. The overachiever is the person that really steps in and takes control. They make sure that everything is done. So if I use myself as an example, when we moved to Canada, and as I said before, my husband was a truck driver. So I was a mom and I was going to university. I had a job, and then when my hubby came home, I made sure that he had everything ready for work, that he got to work, that everything was done, the bills were paid. And I was up at 6 in the morning and going to bed at midnight. But it's okay, nobody knew what was really going on behind the scenes. And then obviously you have the other end of the spectrum, And these are the people that really lose their self-worth. And I think when you hear the word codependency, most people have that image in their head. They have the image of the addict who is controlling everything in his life apart from the addiction, and his wife has lost all of her being, that she is submissive. This really works into the nature part of it. Actually, a lady called Deborah Forer did a paper which was super interesting about how she believes codependency comes from the patriarchal system. So if we think about the system, men go to work, they have to be powerful, they have to be strong, but they have to be controlled. She says that when people go home, the husbands go home, they then control the family. And that system has obviously crushed women's, and I'm not judging anybody here, just want to throw that out there, but we're talking generally, that women have been pushed down and haven't been able to have a role. So she says that codependency is real because of the patriarchal system. So this actually gives me a lot of hope, all of everybody out there, that things are changing right now in our world, as painful as it may be. So how do you go from addictions to codependency to a successful marriage? So I'm going to tell you 3 things that I think makes a successful marriage based on my life experience. So the first thing obviously is love. If you don't have love, you've got nothing to fight for. We use the 5 love languages, awesome book if you haven't tried it. So we actually learned to love each other the way that we were taught. Then part of that is finding yourself. And I think when you look back on our journey and we were so young, we grew up together. So part of our journey through addiction and codependency has been discovering who we are as people, and it being okay that we can live our own lives and not have to do everything together. So it's made us stronger to be who we are. And then lastly is communication. Communication is key to any relationship. Learning the 3rd way of thinking. So basically when somebody is talking to you, you actually listen and don't respond. And being open and honest. So I'm going to end today with the quote from Dale Partridge: "Happy marriages look to the future. They never look to the past." Toastmaster.